And it's not good that I know where you stand on things. Once I know a few things, it's like, why have a conversation? I already know where you stand on things.
I bet you don't know where I stand on all things.
I would hope that was true.
Okay, let's talk about transgender issues. That's fun. What do you think I think about transgender issues?
Oh, this is gonna be good.
I suspect that you think that gender expression, gender identity are fundamentally social constructs, but I could be wrong.
No, I believe that there are definitely some biological differences between the sexes. We've observed them. I do believe that gender is a hugely powerful social structure that we've built on top of that it is largely, but not entirely, socially constructed.
Wait. This is how this exchange played out in my head. Bet you don't know where I stand on transgender issues. Okay. I'm going to guess that you think that gender is a social construct. Her reply, wrong. I think there are some biological differences and it's a social construct. Here we have GQ interviewing the next lamb to the slaughter that is the many media outlets that continue to try and take down Jordan Peterson. This time we have Discount Kathy Newman, who I think actually, by and large, probably did a little bit better in this hour and a half interview. But a couple of things I noticed immediately from the way that they shot Dr. Peterson versus her. His audio, terrible. Her audio, superior. The lighting on Jordan B. Peterson's face is dark, and the light on her is bright and vibrant. I wonder if that was on purpose, GQ. This reporter then attempts to bring up the patriarchy with Dr. Peterson and share her opinion of why this world is dominated by men and how men have all the money and all the power and women are just constantly oppressed. Needless to say, this doesn't end well either.
And so that's my idea of the patriarchy, which is a system of male dominance of society.
Yeah, but that's not my sense of the patriarchy.
So what's yours?
Well, in what sense is our society male-dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid labour.
Very tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men. Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men. It's like, where's the dominance here precisely?
Now, I don't really want to bore you with the same old back and forth that Helen Lewis tries to do because it's really a lot of the same arguments debunked in the exact same manner. GQ really wasn't sending their best. I don't think that there aren't people on the left who are... I don't think the left lacks people intelligent enough to debate Dr. Peterson. I do think that those whom want to are too lazy to either do the work or find somebody who's going to do the work. So what you're saying is they're lazy. But now I want to get to the point of this video, which I watched this about an hour and a half long interview, and friend of the channel, friend of mine, Count Dankula actually came up in this conversation, and I thought it was really interesting to see the exchange. A man that, as an update, is currently not imprisoned, but has not paid his fine in protest of his free speech persecution. And it's interesting that even now, after the debate's been had, rehat, and had again, that people still think the way that Helen Lewis apparently thinks. Let's take a look.
And I think the fact that it didn't work, to me, makes me ultimately optimistic about where we are, because
Why?
Because I went on, I did a panel a while ago with Zarganara, a Burmese comedian who was imprisoned for making a joke, right? And we are not yet at that stage. I think, undoubtedly,
We're not. We're damn close.
Really?
How about the guy with the pug in the UK?
Count Dankula.
That's the one.
See, this is going to harken back to it's only a joke if we think it's funny. And those on the far, far left have lost their sense of humor a long time ago as the new puritanical class, the new pearl clutchers. Jokes that may be deemed offensive or they may find are unfunny simply do not classify as jokes, which is an extraordinarily concerning thing, since many of these people are the ones in power, at least in Silicon Valley, which with the basically Alex Jonesing of Gab, I thought this was a very important conversation to have right now, because we've seen with Gab basically getting erased from the internet and probably unlikely to return after they will continue to be persecuted over one of their users, something they had as a platform nothing to do with. We see still on full display right now the left's puritanical ways and the joke policing.
Right, but he did actually, I mean, that
was a joke.
Did you ever wonder what choking on your own hypocrisy would sound like in vivid detail? That was it. That was chilling.
You might not have liked it. I didn't say it was a good joke. I didn't say it was an appropriate joke. I didn't say any of that. I didn't say it was a well thought through joke. But it was a joke.
And so Jordan B. Peterson correctly analyzes that it doesn't matter if you thought the joke was funny. It was clearly a joke. It was clearly intended as a joke. There was a serious amount of context around it being a joke. And the fact that you didn't like it doesn't really change that.
Yeah, I just fundamentally don't believe that it was a joke. I believe that it was camouflaged as a joke, and that's what it kind of comes across.
Right.
And
Well, that's exactly what you would believe if you were inclined to persecute comedians.
Oh, boom. Exactly right. That is exactly the case, right? She doesn't really offer any real reasoning as to why she thinks teaching your dog a trick is not a joke. She just says, well, I don't believe it. I don't fundamentally believe it. Well, why? Well, it was crypto fascism. It was in disguise. So if it was really in disguise, then did anybody even notice? Well, the moral busybodies did, of course. And you just wonder if Count Dankula didn't look like he did, if people would have reacted the way that they did.
No, I'm not inclined to persecute someone.
Well, you're inclined to persecute him.
I don't think he's a comedian, and I don't think I would have to go and look at the circumstances of that case.
It does not compute. So you admit that you don't even know the circumstances of the case, yet you freely admit you don't think Count Dankula is a comedian. Well, then my question to you is simple. What defines a comedian? Does it mean you make a joke? Does it mean you make several successive jokes? Have you performed publicly? How many people do you have to perform for? If you rent out a theater and you do your comedy act and nobody shows up, are you still a comedian? What is the line that you have to get to, that you have to achieve to have protections as a community, as a comedian, in your eyes? See, that's the exact problem. They can never define that. They don't want to, because then they have standards, right? They want it to be viscous. They want things to be, have you hit a moving target so that they can always define what is right and wrong. And they never have to hold themselves to a standard because they never defined one in the first place.
But I think
he didn't like his girlfriend's pug and thought he would teach it to do something reprehensible as a joke.
And this is why speech must be protected. It can't be freely misinterpreted, especially to the point where a man is going to be separated from his family and two young dogs, his family, his children of pugs, over a joke that if you asked 100,000 people, almost all of them, had they known the context, would say it's a joke. And here we go with the same behavior affecting Gab, and we see why is all this important? Well, we have these mad Facebook purges of conservative and probably Democrat or liberal people as well, just using politics to censor people. The worst interpretations of everything to pursue your own ideological beliefs. We all know that if Dankula would have made a meme making light of something that happened to white people or something like that, it would have been, well, not nearly as funny probably, but it wouldn't have been any big deal. Free speech must be protected, and Jordan B. Peterson is out there speaking the good word. And even though I don't agree with everything the man says, especially recently, the guy is a fan of liberty, which makes me a fan of him. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.